Good evening, fellow Rotarians and guests. My name is Dasun, and I'll be your MC for this evening. Before we officially commence the meeting, I would like to pay my respects to Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and future. It's a great pleasure to have you all today joining us for the 40th evening meeting. And also, I'm sure you have noticed it's the very first time we are having it in hybrid format. So that's why all the technical mumbo jumbo before the meeting. So my apologies for that. We have somebody very special today, and it's my honor to welcome our guest speaker, Claire Moore. Claire, again, thank you for being so patient. You waited. Normally we start on time, so we just about 15 minutes late. So appreciate that. And also, please note that for the duration of the meeting, your mics will be muted for those who are actually joining us through Zoom. This evening meeting is organized by a group of young, good-looking Rotary members who are actually working really hard once a month organizing this great event. So I really like Sana, Idan, and Stefan to stand up and just say hi to everyone. And by the way, I'm also part of that group. So that's the good-looking part. So yeah, without further ado, I actually like to hand this meeting over to Queen, who will be introducing our guest speaker. Queen.
Thank you, Dasun. Good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure that I participate in this way. In introducing Claire Moore, who I got to know quite well over the last 2 months. So Claire is here representing Sweet Justice, following change in the criminal justice system. Claire is the CEO and founder of Sweet Justice, a farmer, a qualified beekeeper, queen bee breeder, very important, and trainer before moving on to the outskirts of Kyneton. Claire spent 12 years working as a stockbroker assistant. Together with her husband Paul, Claire founded a farming enterprise, the Good Life Farm, which led Claire to winning the 2019 Agri-Futures Victorian Rural Woman of the Year. The Rural Woman of the Year award was a catalyst for Claire to pursue her passion in beekeeping, and in 2020 founded Sweet Justice to teach commercial beekeeping within the correction system. Despite the numerous challenges presented by COVID, Sweet Justice is going from strength to strength, and this year will launch a full commercial beekeeping and honey enterprise, which will employ trainees as they exit the prison and reintegrate into the community. Of course, we did recognise Claire very early with great talent. Claire is the inaugural recipient of the Rotary Club of Melbourne Environmental Sustainability. So Claire, we got involved very early, so please don't forget us along the way. Over to Claire Moore.
Thank you, Quinn. Thank you, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay, and thank you for hanging in there with at the beginning. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land we meet upon today, the people of the Kulin Nations. I pay respects to their elders past and present. I especially want to acknowledge the Dja Dja Wurrung and the Tarawang people whose land I meet with you from today. As a beekeeper, I understand the importance of caring for our forests, and I pay my respects to those who've cared for country and continue to protect the land and the waterways and all who depend on them. As Quinn said, my name is Claire Moore, and I'm the CEO and founder of Sweet Justice. And I'm here with you this evening for 2 reasons. One, the 20th of May is International Bee Day. Quite difficult to get that out and not make it sound like a bidet, a toilet, but International Day of Bees. It's a really special day for we beekeepers. And I've been asked to come along this evening and speak to you, 1, about bees, but 2, to give you an update and a progression of how Sweet Justice has gone since our last meeting, and what we've been doing, not only in custody but also in the community. So the 20th of May, and also the Rotarian for Bees have been doing great work. I hear they had an event 4 weeks ago with Fiona Chambers and Costa, and I'm waiting to. Faye's nodding her head. Was it great? Was it a really good event? Yeah. Oh, good. I'm sorry you're muted, because I would normally say please don't wait until the end to ask questions. After teaching for 2 years within the justice environment, I'm quite used to being interrupted. And if you just put a few heckles in there, it just makes me feel at home. Just heckle me a little bit, pledges. I feel quite at home with that. But most importantly, I'd like to talk about the importance of bees and how we actually started the Sweet Justice program and why I'm here. So in 2019, I applied for the Victorian Rural Women's Award because I have been passionate about bees since I was 4 years old. I decided when I was 4 I was either going to be a stockbroker or a beekeeper, and I've done both. They seemed equal as exciting to me when I was a small child. But in bees becoming increasingly more important, not only to me, but to everyone. Our bees are dying at unprecedented rates. In 2018, the United Nations declared our world's pollinators, and therefore our honeybees, in crisis. Bees are dying and our pollinators are dying at rates that we've never seen before, whether this is because of climate change, monocultures, mass use of pesticides, bushfires, new diseases and pests that are existing in the bee world. Our bees are really suffering, and our pollinators are suffering at the moment, which is a huge issue for all of us. And I'm sure Quinn will tell you, because he's so well associated with the fruit and nut industry, he understands the importance of pollination and how important it is for our food security. 1 in every 3 spoonfuls of food we eat is pollinated by bees. Let me repeat that again. 1 in every 3 spoonfuls of food we eat is pollinated by bees. The honey industry itself is quite small. It only generates $101 million to the Australian economy each year. The pollination industry generates $34.2 billion in economic value. But this industry wasn't needed before. Before, we had a lot of pollinators, and I don't know if you can. I can remember driving to Sydney with my parents in the car. We were driving my grandfather's. He had a Kingswood, Holden Kingswood, and by the time we got to Sydney, it was covered in insects on the front. There were grasshoppers and other insects, and Dad had to spend a lot of time wiping the insects off the front of the car. In my 3 children's lifetime, I've never had to do that. And when I was at home on maternity leave with my children and when I was farming, that became more and more obvious when I was out in the farm, and more, and our need for pollinators became more in my mind. I was worried about it more. I was worried about my children's future more. I was worried about what would happen if the varroa mite came to Australia. Australia is the only honey-producing country left in the world that doesn't have the varroa mite, which is a small parasitic mite that, on us, it would be the size of our fist. It pierces through the exoskeleton of bees, and it feeds on their fat stores. It creates mass mortality, almost like the coronavirus, and with the earlier strands, creates mass mortality and is spread across every country in the world except Australia that produces honey. So with that in mind, I started working on queen breeding, and I started working working towards having more hives and becoming a commercial beekeeper. I applied in 2019 for the AgriFutures Rural Women's Award to queen breed. And I'm sorry, apologies to anyone who's heard this story before, but it is actually the honest truth of how all of this started. As part of the Rural Women's Award, I was asked to go on Conversation Hour with John Fane. And I've never been so nervous in all my life going on radio with John Fane, such an intelligent man. And my husband was so excited for me. He's like, "Claire, this is John Fane." I'm like, I know. So I went to ABC, and I was on Conversation Hour, and he brought up, have you ever considered, and he must have picked me quite well, have you ever considered beekeeping within the justice system? It's doing really well overseas. And I said, not in a million years, John. Who would consider beekeeping within the justice system? And I left the ABC, and my phone was ringing, and pretty much everyone who knew me said, "Claire, you really should do this. This is so you. You know, you've even when I was stockbroking, I had a massive love for social justice. I would get on my bike after work and leave Collins Street and ride my bike down to North Melbourne to the soup kitchens and make Vegemite sandwiches to hand out until midnight after work to homeless people around Melbourne. And that's actually where I met my husband Paul, making Vegemite sandwiches next to each other on a Wednesday night and delivering them all over Melbourne with brother Doug, who was one of the most lovely people I've ever met. And there I met a lot of young people who were part of the criminal justice system. I met a lot of young people, and I met a lot of young people, and you could see them slide. Once they got out of the justice system, they were homeless. The drug usage would kick up. It would get worse over a period of time, and then sadly, they wouldn't come back. It was pretty sad to see. So I always had a massive, and I always wanted to do something that had a social justice bent, and people around me knew that. So it was probably John's suggestion was probably the best one. He really chose my career. I couldn't get my head around it to begin at the start, but I only live 2 to 3 kilometres away from Malmesbury Youth Justice. And one day I just picked up the phone and I cold called them, and I explained who I was. I'm Claire, I'm the Rural Woman of the Year, and I'd like to teach beekeeping at Malmesbury. I called during the middle of a riot. I don't know who was picking up the phone during a riot, but they did. And I explained what they wanted to do, and they said, yeah, sure, bring the bees in. And within about a month, I had the bees in Malmesbury, and we started teaching during COVID. I've never actually taught within a prison, not in a COVID environment, to be honest. And I was teaching up to 4 days a week at Malmesbury, teaching gardening, pollinator plants, beekeeping, commercial beekeeping, how to build hives, the cast of the honeybees, how to open and close a hive, how to light a smoker, and the kids were loving it. They were lapping it up, and the program was going really, really well until the Delta variant came. And the Delta variant, as you might remember, was the more dangerous variant for young people. And our program ceased in around about July or August of last year. We ceased teaching within youth justice, which broke my heart a little bit. But it did give me an option and did give me time to be able to do a few more other things that I really wanted to do. So we piloted our first young person leaving the justice system and working with Sweet Justice. He was one of my best students and was loving beekeeping and loving life. And he came and he worked with me for pollination. That was one of the most challenging experiences of my entire life, watching a young person leave prison. The first 4 weeks were really, really rough, being the person that they lean on, the person that, they get out of justice, and their mates that they thought were there might not be. The girlfriend that they thought waited for them didn't. The family that they went home to, things weren't as great as they imagined. It was a really difficult time for both of us, I must admit. And it made me realise that this wasn't going to be as straightforward as a person leaving the justice system, going to work and having a job. We, as Sweet Justice, needed to do so much more than that. We needed to have a supported employment program. We needed to wrap social workers, psychologists, people who had access to housing around people to really make this work. It was a baptism of fire, and one that I do not regret, but gee, it was a pretty rough time. I was averaging 2 or 3 hours sleep a night, and I realised just the number of staff that we needed to make this happen. So it was a really interesting experience, and one that I'm looking forward to doing again. But it also gave me an opportunity as well to enter into adult corrections where we've never taught before. So we started at Beechworth last August, so left youth justice and started at Beechworth, teaching to adults for the first time. So I had to change all of in a way I changed my teaching style, how we worked, and it has been the most amazing experience at Beechworth. The guys love it and genuinely love being outside. They love opening their hives. They're very protective of the bees, and the feedback that we're getting from the Beechworth program is, and you can imagine, a lot of the men who move through the program go through remand, will start in a higher security prison, will move through the justice system and go through to a few different jails before finishing their sentence at Beechworth. Most of them say, in all my years in prison, this is the best thing I've ever done, which is just one of the sweetest thing you could ever hear as a teacher. But they're like, I get to care for something. I'm outside, which I rarely get to do. This is something I can actually achieve. And one of my students who finished last week, it is the only certificate they have received in 9 years of incarceration in youth justice and adult corrections. He was pretty proud of himself, me even more so. I was pretty stoked for him. So, and he was like, this is the only thing this is the only course other than something that I was made to do that I actually willingly turned up to, which has been a really great experience. So we're looking at, and we're going back to youth justice, and we're working on our contract with youth justice to start again next month. And we'll continue at Beechworth, and now we're looking at moving into our first women's prison later this year, and a further prison in adult corrections. We've also been approached by prisons in Queensland and the Northern Territory. So I'm trying to work out how to clone myself to make all of this happen. I will train up a lot of trainers, to be able to extend the program. So things are going pretty well. But as Quinn mentioned, not to rest there, because as anyone who knows me, I tend to do far too much, I must admit. That was not the teaching in Beechworth was not enough. I've been working with Quinn and the Beeson Family Office, and we've been looking and running the numbers. Or actually, I should go back a little bit. I'll back the truck up, sorry. We applied in December to the Lord Mayor's Charitable Fund because we were having trouble getting a proper certification to be able to deliver in the prisons. We couldn't, it was difficult to get someone to auspice into the prisons so that we could properly qualify people at TAFE level. So we applied to the Lord Mayor's Charitable Fund for funding and won a grant for $98,000 last December to become a TAFE. So Sweet Justice is now registered or going through the registration process as an RTO, so that we'll be our own TAFE, teaching beekeeping and qualifying people within the justice system. So I'm working with a team of writers. Thanks, Faye. Thanks. I'm working with a team of writers to be able to write, firstly, the skill set, and we have a team of curriculum writers based in New South Wales. And then we're writing the skill set and then the certificate 3, because at the moment there isn't a TAFE that has a certificate 3 in beekeeping. In industry, we don't have one at the moment. I'm working with Melbourne Polytechnic and worked with them to get $815,000 worth of funding for them to be able to write a certificate 3, and they've started their writing. But at the moment, our industry, beekeeping industry, doesn't have any way of qualifying young beekeepers. And I think that is the main reason why our industry doesn't have any young blood, and we desperately need it. The average age of beekeepers is about 55. Some of them would like to retire soon, especially the ones in their 80s. So being able to qualify more people within the justice system to be able to take on these roles is a pretty amazing thing. But also, as I was saying with Quinn and the Beeson Family Office, not to rest on our laurels of teaching and exhausting myself, we have started doing the numbers to be able to create a honey enterprise. The honey business will be based in Bendigo, most likely based in Bendigo, and we are buying out an existing beekeeper who is in his 80s and would like to slow down, and to be able to run a honey business that will employ people leaving the justice system. Then we'll be able to wrap those supports around them, the social workers, the people that they need to be able to make that rocky period leaving prison easier. So I found the first 4 weeks a really rough process, but the first 90 days, it's been proven that if you can keep a person out of the justice system for 90 days, their likelihood of succeeding is a lot higher. If you can keep them out of the justice system for 12 months, it's very unlikely that it is less likely that they'll go back into the justice system. That 12-month period is really, really important. So the idea behind Sweet Justice's Honey Enterprise is to employ people leaving the justice system for 12 months and to give them the flexibility that they need leaving the corrections and justice system. It's a really busy time for people leaving. They have so many commitments and appointments with their parole officer, with drug and alcohol counsellors. They have to attend training. All of these things, and so there's things called offender training that you need to attend, or corrections training, or YOP training, or you have to check in with your psychologist, or you have to pop in and see someone else. And all of those things happen Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So how do you hold down a job if you've got 7 appointments a week and those appointments change days and times every week? It's very difficult to be able to maintain that employment. And that's where the supported employment comes in, to have an understanding employer who'll work with you and work around those challenges so that you can remain employed. A lot of the people that I talk to, especially at Beechworth, say, I really wanted a job. I genuinely loved that job and I really, really wanted to be there. But my boss just couldn't do it, because how could they? Because I wasn't there enough. I'd work 7 days a week if I could to be able to keep the job, but the hours weren't there. So the idea behind Sweet Justice is it would give them that opportunity to be able to have the flexibility to remain employed. And I've been working very hard with Quinn, Pitcher Partners in the Beeson Family Office. I'm sure Quinn can say that we've been in far too many meetings trying to get the numbers right to work out the initial investment that we need to be able to, 1, purchase the beehives, and then 2, purchase all the kit that goes with it. And there's a lot of kit. We're talking very, very big trucks. I've had to go out and get my heavy rigid license. Look out, everyone. It was a very scary day. I can feel this is a classic Claire moment too. I spent 8 hours grinding truck gears, really frustrated, getting my manual heavy rigid license. And I got back to the factory and the guy said, "Hey, Claire, you realise we only have automatic trucks, yeah?" No, that would have been good to know yesterday, guys. Thanks a heap. But at least I've got a heavy rigid license. That's manual now. That's something the guys don't have. Yeah, it's been a really interesting time, and I've been really privileged to have some amazing people around me. Quinn is one of them. Duncan Murray from Beeson, a family office, has been a phenomenal asset and really, really lovely person to be around. Pitcher Partners have pro bono helped out, or we're given some pro bono services to be able to work out the numbers. And I think we've got our last meeting this week before we go out to investors to be able to see if we can find we have 1 investor so far, but to be able to see if we can find the rest of the money to be able to purchase the business, to be able to employ people. We'll be able to employ young people down to the age of 16, and anyone within adult corrections, men and women included. So both men and women, and I can't wait to get some women that will be joining the program from Tarrangower and some of the other women's prisons. That's something that I'm really looking forward to, and one of my very big goals. And something that how do I articulate that? It is one of my very big goals, but it's going to be difficult mixing different offences together. So we're going to have to be very careful. There will be some people that we can't employ, not because they can't, not because they're not brilliant or wouldn't be great at the role, but we may not be able to have them with other people within the team. So to put it, especially men and women together, depending on violent offences against women and things like that. All right. I don't have the ability to change that. Would someone be able to go down to the next slide for me, please? Okay. Well, that's me. We can skip over me. We've seen enough of that, I think. Could you please go to the next slide? Okay. All right. So this is what I was kind of talking about before. From the training, from training to guaranteed employment. We provide the vocational training in commercial beekeeping, supported employment for 1 to 2 years. So the vocational training is within the justice system. That is what we call a skill set. So it's a 10-week course that we teach within the justice system. A Certificate 3 in beekeeping takes a full year. So we teach a skill set within the prison, and then what we're working towards as an RTO is having the Certificate 3 taught when people are working with us on the honey truck. In that 1 to 2 years of support and employment, they'll leave with a full qualification in beekeeping, and they'll leave with a forklift license, a skid steer license, and being able to drive a truck more than likely, which makes them highly employable in the beekeeping industry. Duxton, which is a farming and beekeeping enterprise that's backed by Deutsche Bank, have been in contact, and they would like 60 beekeepers, trained beekeepers, in the next 2 years for their expansion of their operation. So there is quite a bit of employment and a demand in the industry. Could you please move to the next slide for me? Okay. And I'm sorry that the slides are out of, I spoke out of sync with the slides. But these are the problems that we're facing within people leaving the justice system. So we've got major barriers for re-engaging with society and stigma against people who've been within the justice system. Limited unemployment in some cases. In COVID, it was really, really sad. We had young people from the youth justice system being paroled to sleep on friends' couches. There wasn't enough housing. In Bendigo alone, where we are, where we're looking at setting up, 65 people are now applying for every public house in Bendigo, when pre-COVID 5 were. Housing and having enough housing in Bendigo is going to be one of our greatest issues. All of these things contribute to reoffending. I've actually spoken to people who said the idea of homelessness was too much. The reality of homelessness was too much. Breaching parole can sometimes be easier than having to deal with that. Youth unemployment is 3 times that of the national level, and was pre-COVID. I honestly don't know what it is right now. I think it's in some ways quite difficult to get a proper read on just what's happening with unemployment post-COVID for people leaving the justice system. We won't know the real numbers for a while. But we are trying very hard to tackle that. And I think one of the most important things that Sweet Justice does do is I spend so much time talking to people within the prisons, hearing their stories, talking with them, that we build up a rapport and a friendship and a level of trust. And that what really is needed is that level of trust to continue, and that person's got your back when you leave prison. That person genuinely cares about you, and the Sweet Justice team will care about you and wants you to do well. I think in a lot of cases, the guys at Beechworth said, "Claire, you've got your stockbroker's ticket," which I do. And they're like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "Because I care. I genuinely care," is the reason. And they kind of go, "She could be doing other things." So they really clue in then that I could be doing something that was higher paid or quite different to what I'm doing, but I'm genuinely there for them. And that makes the program quite special. Okay. The next slide is, I touched on earlier, it was about industry. And the beekeeping industry is really hurting right now, in all honesty. We have limited training. We have one beekeeping school in New South Wales. It's called Tokau. Queensland has started a Certificate 3, but it's not very well known. Our beekeepers are ageing. 2% of beekeepers in Victoria take care of 60-odd% of Victoria's hives, which is a really crazy number when you think about it. 2% of our commercial beekeepers take care of 60-odd% of our hives. It's scary to think we've gotten into that position, given how important pollination is to our food security. But I'm hoping that with this program, and by working with generating and creating the Certificate 3s for Melbourne Poly and for Sweet Justice, we have a new generation of young, really highly educated, tech-savvy beekeepers coming through, because that's what our industry needs. There's also the increase. We've got an increased demand at the moment as well, and hive numbers. We've lost a great number of hives that were needed for pollination in the recent floods. We were still coming back from the bushfires, and hive numbers were increasing after the bushfires before the floods went through New South Wales and Queensland. There's also been increased use of pesticides, especially on pollination, and a lot of people lost bees at this year's pollination. So there is the increased demand for pollination. I think the Almond Board in 2020 said there were 600,000 hives short just for the almond pollination, and almonds is just one crop of many that require pollination in Australia. Could you please move to the slide that's called What We Do? I'm so sorry, I don't know who's moving it, but thank you, much appreciated for your help. I think it's 2 slides down from the one we were just on, 1 or 2 slides down. Well done, thank you. Oh, 1 down from that. Oh, so that was just explaining we need more managed hives because our food security is dependent on it. Okay, and what we do, so Sweet Justice is designed to create impact. We really want to create and we want. Oh, my battery! It's saying my laptop battery is running out. I apologise, everyone. I'll just plug myself in. But it's saying what we are designed to create impact, and the whole purpose of Sweet Justice is to not only create impact for the beekeeping industry, to create resilience for our pollination industry, but to also create impact for young people and people leaving the justice system that may not have a shot without us. In all seriousness, a lot of people leaving corrections, things are going to be really, really tough. So the idea behind Sweet Justice is merging and melding all those things together. A great need for pollination, a great need for beekeepers, an industry that's screaming out for people to work with people who desperately want jobs, and making it as easy and inclusive as possible for them to succeed. It's what we're really honestly trying to do. Makes this a pretty special program. Could you please go 1 slide down? Oh, sorry, Peter, have I gone over? Need to wind up. Okay, these are our what we're going to be working in our product markets in the commercial beekeeping enterprise: training services, pollination services, and honey and wax. Quinn's helping me with honey packing and honey processing. I'm learning on the fly. He's a very talented man. And sorry, our next slide after that. We should have 1 more slide after that, I think.
Hi, Claire. It's Peter.
Our goals are to reduce reoffending, accessible education, and a healthy bee population. And 1 more after that, and then I'll jump off, Peter. I apologise. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, you're right. It's so wonderful.
And so many people from Rotary, and I must say I feel very loved when I'm around Rotary. The main question I get is, how can I help? And I know we're coming into the end of tax time, so you may be thinking where your donations are going to go. Please think of us. You can help. Raina has been very optimistic by making this slide, I think, with a $250,000 fully equipped honey truck, but you never know. You never know what might happen. $400 buys us a healthy operational beehive, and $20,000 would fully equip a beekeeper and supported employment for a year. And we do have, and you can donate online on our website, which I think is the next slide. Raina, our business development manager, never misses an opportunity, I promise. But the next slide after that will be how you can get in contact with us. But thank you so much for your time. I really, really value everything that Rotary does. I never imagined winning the award that I did would link me with so many amazing people. Rotary has been a great experience for the year that I have been part of the award, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for this evening.
So we've got time for a few questions.
I can sort of start it off by just asking, in terms of what you're doing and the great growth, I can't believe how much you've actually achieved in the last 12 months, is with your expansion into particularly other states and centres, justice centres and prison. What's the support structure that you yourself are building around? Because it's just one of you to do all this teaching.
Yes.
So, and you were talking about also having a board set up and a structure. So I'm just interested, that's the first question, what that structure is that you're setting up to support you and basically put the resources and support behind your wonderful efforts.
Thank you. And to be honest, even though we've been approached, I do think that moving into other states is a way off. I'm only one person at the moment. There's a limit to how much I can do in teaching wise. It's lovely to have the interest, and as much as I would like to do that, I think we need to really concentrate on what we're doing in Victoria at the moment and getting our Victorian certification right, making sure that what we're teaching is of a really good quality and that we're turning out really well-educated beekeepers for industry. I would hate to think that we would be rushing the program and not giving our best by trying to do too much too soon. I'm putting a lot of time and effort into the Certificate 3. We're working really hard to create a certificate that is for people that may not have a high level of literacy. Within the justice system, literacy can really vary. We've got people who may only have, some people are doing PhDs at Beechworth, which is pretty amazing, but some people may only have a level, like a grade 1 level of literacy. So we have to write a particular Certificate 3 and a particular course that is that people whose school hasn't worked out for will be able to succeed in, and that will take some time. So I think it's a 2-3 year plan to be able to move into other states, and I am training up other beekeepers to be able to teach within the justice system now. In actual fact, I'm trying to find the right people with the right personality to teach within justice and teaching them beekeeping rather than going the other way, trying to train a beekeeper to be able to hold and entertain and teach and captivate people within the justice system. I think you've got to find the right person. I can teach beekeeping to anyone, but I've got to find that right person and train them up. And I'm working on that at the moment. We've got some really amazing young people coming through with degrees in Indigenous studies and just really diverse things that I think will go really well in prisons.
Oh, great answer. I've got another question, 1 or 2 questions here. I don't think Christina Boyes has been highlighted yet. She might like to ask a question. If not, I'll ask it. Christine, you're on. You need to unmute.
Yeah, apologies, I wasn't unmuted. I've got a couple of questions, Claire, because I have a bit of an interest in this area. One is in terms of the Beechworth work that you've done. Have you had any contact with Beechworth Honey?
I do. I've had previous contact with Beechworth Honey.
With Jodie and Larry. So, yeah, because I know that further training is something that they're very interested in, particularly because during post bushfires, they had such a shortage of people in the industry. And secondly, my other question is a rather specific one. Are you finding areas for your hives easily? Because that's also been a problem since the bushfires.
It has.
It's been a huge problem trying to find actual spots where you're getting viable amount of pollen out of the area that you're putting the hives. So
You're on it, Christina. Look at you go. Yeah. We are purchasing hive sites when we purchase our bees.
Yeah.
But we are always looking for private hive sites, especially in areas with lucrative honey and pollen. So if you do know anyone who's willing to for a bucket of honey, let us put our hives on their site or their farm.
Yeah.
Please let us know. We would love to hear from you.
It's a big thing. And I'm also quite familiar with juvenile justice and the field because that's my background in those areas. And so I really understand how for you there's such a diverse area of people that you're dealing with. So the skills are quite, as you said, the skills are quite varied. The literacy particularly is quite varied. But I think the thing about beekeeping is that whilst there is a lot for them to understand, it's also quite a manual thing as well. So it's a task-driven thing. So you can teach them the task without them necessarily having the literacy that you would expect to go with it. You know, and I think that's
one of the really sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. That's
one
fine.
of the really beautiful things about beekeeping is it's taught through stories, and historically it has always been taught through stories.
Yeah.
And that makes teaching beekeeping, one, really special, but two, really, really open to anyone, regardless of their level of literacy.
Yeah, and
so it works really, really well.
And I think the other thing is that your point about youth unemployment.
And I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think my internet's cutting in and out. I think my internet's unstable, so I apologise.
Hear me well, I can keep talking, so you're quite welcome to cut me off. With youth in employment too, especially, I know Bendigo quite well as well. I lived in northeast Victoria for a long period of time, but I also know most of that area. And I know for both areas, and frankly most of regional Victoria, youth unemployment was high before COVID, and it's actually worse now. And so it's a difficult area for people coming out of prison going into the community to find employment. So if you're going to provide something, I think that's, it's just a plus for the community and for people coming out of the system, because it's what they need. Because we know that if they don't have employment of some sort, that they'll probably go back in prison. They'll end up back in, because it's just so hard. It's impossible actually to describe to people who don't know how hard it is for them to get employment in the community. So, and finally, congratulations on your award, the Rural Women's Award, because I know how prestigious that is, how much is valued by the rural community, and also the sort of experience you get with having been awarded it. So, yeah. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you. Well, that probably wraps it up in terms of the time and the questions.
Thank you so much. Really lovely. Thank you.
I'm going to hand over now to Dassen to give a vote of thanks. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Peter. Guys, thank you very much, Claire. Guys, round of applause for Claire. Well, Claire, again, thank you very much. Claire, do you like socks? Fancy socks?
Yes, I like socks.
Good. Because you'll be receiving one of our R100 centenary socks. Well, I was told 200% Australian made. By one of our past president, Phil Enresby's Wilderness Wear. So that will be posted to you pretty soon. Now I'm going to hand it over to President Reg for the...
Thank you so much. That's great.
You're welcome. I'm going to hand it over to President Reg for notices and the closing.
Thanks, everyone. What an amazing meeting. And I've just got to say, every meeting of this year, I've learned something new, and tonight's been no exception. It's just been fantastic. Claire, that was an astonishingly good presentation. Congratulations in what you're doing. But I learned a bit about one of our members too, and that's Christina, and what an amazing resource and knowledge font she is. So thank you, Christina, for your contribution. And of course, one of the other things, Sue, Peter Berg and myself went up to Kyneton to meet with Claire and hand over the nearly lost Environmental Sustainability Award that we presented last year, and learned a heck of a lot. And one of them was a hidden helper, and that was Quinn Scalzo, who's been here tonight to introduce Claire, and the good that Quinn has done in supporting Claire really needs to be acknowledged as well. Thank you, Quinn. And I just wanted to draw your attention to our next Environment Sustainability event, which is a big luncheon that's taking place on the 2nd of June. It's one that I think will become iconic in Melbourne as an event that's annualised, and it'll be the venue at which we present our next Environmental Sustainability Award, which I might say is an award of $3,000 to a salary of the award, to a charity of the awardee's choice. And it's got, as you can see, some pretty big names supporting us. I guess Matt Preston would probably think he's the biggest, but we've got Sally Capp and John Thwaites, a former Deputy Premier, a really gold-plated panel of speakers and so on. So it's going to be a fantastic event. It's one worth assembling a corporate table if you have that capacity. It's certainly one worth inviting your friends along to. $100 a person is an automatic $15 to Second Bite, the charity we're supporting. So encourage you to put that in your calendar for lunch at the Sofitel on Collins Street on the 2nd of June. And I know you'll have an amazing experience at that event. Finally, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to a team. This is the third hybrid meeting, quite a special hybrid meeting because we brought our speaker in remotely. And it's amazing. I wanted to say a huge thank you to Joe Mavros for putting this together, because and to team, but Joe makes miracles happen in our club, and she doesn't like being acknowledged publicly, but every past president knows Joe's the heart, and she makes it all happen. But we've got a great event coming up next at lunchtime next week. Lisa Miller, who many of you will know as an ABC presenter and a former leader of the ABC's Washington Bureau, is going to be talking to us about her most recently published book, and it's going to be a terrific event. So if you're able, please join us there. You'll be most welcome. So nothing else on the screen I need to be talking about. Let's call it quits. Spend a few minutes having some more social time, and thanks everyone for being here. All the best. I also wanted to say a big thank you to Dasun for chairing the meeting today, to Sana and Stephen and your dad, who were great helpers in this whole process. And I've seen people scurrying around trying to harness sound problems and so on. So well done, guys. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of these folks in our club over the next year or two. I'm absolutely certain of that. So with that, I'd just like to thank everyone who's here. We have a couple of guests. I haven't introduced myself to them yet, but thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you everyone for being here. It's been a terrific event, and we look forward to more of the same. And I think with that note, I'll just say thank you and goodbye.